strange sometimes how you think of something, you think of maybe a fighter, and all of a sudden you see an article about them. And this is no different. So I'm reading here off Seconds Out, and I'll read the article. I'll read the heading. Deontay Wilder offered new heavyweight title shot for shock comeback fight. Deontay Wilder could fight for a title in his return to boxing. Wilder, once the feared WBC champion, going unbeaten in his first 43 contests, making 10 defenses of the belt, knocking out the likes of Luis Ortiz, Bermane Stiverne, Chris Arreola, Eric Molina and Dominic Brazil. His title reign was brought to an end in 2020 when he was stopped by Tyson Fury, and the Bronze Bomber has found it extremely difficult inside the ring since then. I'll go on. Wilder lost for a further fight to Tyson Fury in October of 21. Brilliant fight. And while he knocked out Robert Helenius a year after, he has since suffered defeats to Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang in his last two outings. The loss to Zhang came via devastating fifth round knockout, with many fans wondering if we would see the American back in the ring again. Before I carry on, that's pretty much the gist of Deontay Wilder. And you may remember back in January there was a lot of talk that he'd be returning on, is it BLK? I was going to say PFL, but that's MMA. BLK, I think, is the name of the platform. The platform that did Terence Crawford versus David Avanesian a couple of years ago. And, they apparently had deep pockets. And I say apparently because they were looking to do Wilder versus Curtis Harper. Now, at the time, we were hearing that there'd be a press conference for that fight, but that happened to coincide, one, with the Ring Magazine award show. So I kind of thought, even though that's in London, the awards, and this could be in LA, probably won't make much. They might not hit in with one another. But then obviously that was happening at a time when LA, in particular the state of California, but in particular LA is where it was really affected, was having some issues. We'll just call it that. We're not going into detail. And I thought, all right, they can't conceivably do a press conference given what's going on in that respective state, in particular in that region of California. So I thought, okay, makes sense that they're not going to announce anything. They'll put it on the back burner, but they will inevitably announce it. They were talking about doing it at some point in April, which is next month. And then as the weeks progress, you hear less and less and less and less and less, and then it emerges that fight isn't going to materialize, which is a fight that's really kind of, it's a fight that you would say is fine for a returning 39-year-old Deontay Wilder who's lost, since 2019, since 2020 has only won one fight. It's now 2025, 5 years. In 5 years, he's won one fight. That's really bad going. So you would think that for someone like Wilder, who's near the end, fighting a Curtis Harper is kind of it's a bit of a gimme fight to try and just give him some semblance of confidence back. That's what it is. But now that fight is gone off the table, BLK, shock horror, they don't have more than likely, anyway, I'm just surmising here, but more than likely they don't have the funds to do what they want to do. And as I said, shock horror, who would have thought that putting a fight like that on and wanting to pay the amount of money they wanted might set you back a few quid? Who would have thought that? Shock, madness. This now means that Wilder, we're kind of up in the air with what he's going to do next. And as I said at the start of this video, Wilder in for a shock title shot potentially. So I'll carry on. The winner, excuse me, did I go past it? Yeah, I have actually. I went past where I should have. Wilder has now been offered a title shot upon his return after WBC President Mauricio Sullivan indicated to Sky Sports that he could take on WBC interim champion Agit Kabayel due to the WBC not wanting to force a mandatory on Alexander Usyk. Yeah, they don't tend to force mandatories on, most of the fighters, unless of course you're Dmitry Bivol or Artur Beterbiev, in which case, yeah, we'll force it on you. Well, why didn't you force that on Canelo and Benavidez was mandatory? Don't mention the war. The winner of Zhang Kabayel is of the highest level, but also we are supporting Undisputed again, because how can you see Usyk lose a belt? Because how can you see Usyk lose a belt? That was horrible. Now they might fight again for Undisputed with Dubois. We will see. We're not going to push anything. We will support an Undisputed heavyweight title fight, and we will assess what is happening, what is the best scenario. Kabayel, WBC interim champion, that can defend. There are other big fights like Joshua or Wilder or even Fury So many other possible great fights. Kabayel has an undefeated record. It still remains to be seen if Wilder will indeed return, as his longtime rival Tyson Fury has shared his stance on if his former foe should return. When did he say that? March the 9th. That's maybe something for a separate video. Probably not. But yeah, that's the situation. What do all those three fighters have in common? Fury, Wilder, Joshua. What's something that they have in common? They're all coming off the back of a loss. Every one of them. Wilder, Joshua, and Fury, and he's mentioning all three of them to fight for the interim title. Brilliant. Isn't that just flipping brilliant by Mauricio Sullivan? To be honest with you, out of those three, the one I would maybe have the most confidence in beating Agit Kabayel would be Tyson Fury. I might even pick Tyson Fury if he's the Fury who fought Usyk, certainly those 3 rounds in the first fight. That version of Fury, I'd pick him over Agit Kabayel. Wouldn't pick Anthony Joshua or this version of Deontay Wilder over Agit Kabayel, certainly not. It is kind of a choice that Kabayel has really on his plate. Does he carry on? So he's WBC interim champion, which is essentially a glorified mandatory. And given the fact that Alexander Usyk will likely face Daniel Dubois next, should he win, he's then going to have, a bit of a gimme fight or something like that. And then he's going to sail off into the sunset. So if he hasn't been stripped of the WBC title, Kabayel can just sit on that interim title. And then when Usyk retires or maybe vacates, then he's full champion. At the end of the day, we've seen, and I'm not advocating this, by the way, I'm not advocating taking easy fights or anything like that. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But we have seen the likes of Joe Joyce, who was interim champion with the WBO. This is before Alexander Usyk was undisputed. This is when he was still chasing Tyson Fury around. Joe Joyce was interim champion with the WBO. He could have held and sat and waited and just done what he needed to do before he got that crack at Alexander Usyk, and he chose to fight Zhilei Zhang. We have seen that in the past, where an interim champion holds onto that belt and decides, you know what, I'm going to test myself, and oh shock, they've lost. So that could happen with Kabayel, you wouldn't know. But if he was to fight the likes of Wilder, Anthony Joshua at this point, it makes no sense for either of those guys, really, when you think about it, because financially that fight's not going to really do anything. Certainly not for someone like Anthony Joshua against Kabayel, I would imagine. And the risk is massive. You do gain a lot, yeah, you gain pretty much a guaranteed, maybe even a guaranteed title at some point. But yeah, it's a big risk, and Kabayel just doesn't generate that kind of attention. So that's what Sullivan is saying there. Whether he follow throughs with that or not, that remains to be seen. But he's talking about potentially Deontay Wilder going back in and getting a interim title shot straight off the bat. He's lost back-to-back fights. He beat Robert Helenius nearly 3 years ago, and he lost back-to-back fights with Tyson Fury. Unbelievable if he gets a title shot. Even if it's only an interim title, unbelievable if he gets himself in that position based off the back of that. Crazy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, people, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll leave it there. Peace.